Everybody's looking for quick meals, and this today is one. It's pumpkin and Parmesan soup, which is very, very quick, but does not involve a can of prepared soup. It can, however, involve a can of prepared pumpkin. Now, I'm using a 1-pound can of pumpkin puree. If you do your own pumpkin, you can start with fresh pumpkin and cook it. You'd probably need about 2 pounds of pumpkin to get 2 cups of puree, which is about what you get out of a can. So we're going to put this in here and begin heating it up. If you can your own pumpkin, make sure that you can it in chunks and puree it before you're ready to use it, because it's too thick for the heat to penetrate in the time that it's allotted if it's already pureed, and so it's not safe and you can end up with botulism toxin. To this I'm going to add 2 cups of chicken broth. Now, I've used a reduced fat version, fat-free pretty much. I also wanted to keep the sodium content of this relatively low, so we have a reduced sodium variety. And I'm going to stir this in fairly well before I go ahead and add the milk. Now, this is a cream soup, and I wanted it to taste a little bit creamy, but I also wanted it to reduce the fat content. So I've gone from a whole milk, which the original recipe called for, and switched it down. And usually I switch down to a skim milk whenever possible, but I wanted to keep some of the creaminess of this one, so I'm adding 1 1/4 cups of 2%. Now, if you're like me and you don't buy a lot of higher fat milks and you usually use the low fat varieties, don't feel bad about paying a little bit extra to buy the smaller container. Maybe you just need a couple of cups, and so see where you can go with that. That way you don't end up with a lot of other milk that's higher in fat that you end up drinking because you don't want to waste it. Simply going to bring this to a simmer and let it simmer for about 5 minutes before we go ahead. Okay, we've let this simmer for about 5 minutes just to blend the flavors together, so it's been really, really quick thus far. There's no onions to chop, no garlic to peel. It's just all these basic ingredients. I stirred in a 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese, which is why we haven't added any salt prior to this. It's because the Parmesan has a lot of salt to it already, and we don't want to add too much. And also about 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. And basically that's it. You're just going to heat those through, make sure the Parmesan gets melted, and you're done. Let me get the rest of this Parmesan in there. Take it off the heat and be ready to dish it up. Now, one of the things that I did find is that it still needed a little bit of punch, so I wanted to add a little bit of pepper, but determined that rather than stir the pepper in and make some people maybe have more than they wanted, we would use the pepper as the garnish. So if you get some freshly cracked black pepper and just grate a little bit over the top, it makes it really pretty. Then serve this with some whole grain bread or some cornbread, and you have a terrific lunch that takes basically 10 minutes to prepare. And it's fresh, and it's fragrant, and it's a different use of pumpkin than most of us are used to. Instead of pumpkin pie or pumpkin bread, which are always sweet, it gives it a little bit of savory use. I think you're going to enjoy it. This is pumpkin and Parmesan soup. For Oklahoma Gardening, this is Barbara Brown.